Ashley, let's start. Welcome. This is your first retreat?
No.
It's not?
Second.
Many. Second.
Second.
There you go, second.
Yeah.
What's the conversation you want to be having with the industry? I'm guessing it's about Adsmart.
Yeah, so Adsmart has been a really interesting opportunity to inject some digital principles into sort of a more traditionally rooted company. Adsmart is a cross-portfolio team that stands for everything that's data-enabled, audience-targeted, and cross-portfolio. And it's that cross-portfolio piece that I think is really interesting at a company like NBCU, because at the end of the day, we believe that powerful content experiences create the best environments for advertising to realize max impact and efficacy to the advertiser's benefit. We know that it's an attention economy where consumer choice reigns, and that clutter makes it really tough for marketing messaging to break through. And so we think that data and unique data strategies provide one such opportunity for that breakthrough opportunity for creative messaging. We also know that this notion of ad avoidance is something that we all have to overcome. And so creating that positive experience for consumers that really puts consumers at the center of the experience is the other thing that we've sort of lost the plot on, right? So we're all sort of pulling it back to put customers at the center. And that means coming up with new models, new advertising assets that don't create that ad avoidance phenomenon, right? And then last but not least, the other thing we stand for is making it easier for the buy side to transact. So making it a frictionless, barrierless opportunity environment for them to sort of come to market and work with us. And so that cross-portfolio piece, just to round out the point, you know, never before in a building like ours where everything was about vertical, were we able to really bring together all of our powerhouse content and assets on the basis of audience. So imagine, you know, prior to Adsmart, you came to work with NBC Universal and you went to the sports team, or you went to the news team, and you went to the entertainment team. This was the first time where we could go to market and say, who are you trying to reach and why? And forget about those barriers and walls. Let's break them down and let you transact on the basis of audience or automation.
And why are you importing it from the UK?
Importing it?
Well, it's a Sky-originated concept,
sure, the
isn't
moniker.
it? And you've brought it over here. They're taking C-Flight.
Sure.
You're taking Adsmart.
Yes.
Why did you take it from Sky as opposed to creating your own thing?
Yes, so we are the artist formerly known as Audience Studio. I always joke we should put a Prince symbol on our collateral. And so part of the thinking with taking the moniker was that in general, in totality, holistically, we were going to share best practices. And so that meant bringing them C-Flight. That meant us learning some sort of household addressable principles from across the pond. But in general, the idea is to bring a seamless, advanced television opportunity for multinational global marketers. And so we're sort of in that process of sharing best practices across. One of the things we inherited was the moniker.
And just briefly, unpack the global piece there.
Sure.
Am I going to be able to transact with Adsmart here in the US and then seamlessly across European markets, across Sky's European footprint?
Yes, and the definition of both is a little bit different. So we think about data-driven linear more here. Not that household addressable isn't a piece of it, but their sort of data-driven linear there is certainly more of an addressable opportunity given that it's satellite. And so their sort of standard operating procedure is a little bit more data enabled from the start. So they look at age, gender, and household income for just their standard offering. So the idea would be to mix and marry those things and create that opportunity for multinational advertisers to transact both here and abroad.
And what I like about it, as you just described it,
Yeah.
is it feels like a classic example of genuinely putting it all together.
Yes.
It feels very of the moment.
Yeah.
It's global, it has the linear, the VOD, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
Do you feel it's a kind of state-of-the-art moment to be bringing this to market? Does it sum up everything you're about or trying to be about, that the TV market needs to be about right now?
Yeah, I think it does. And I think when you combine that and some of the other innovations that we're working on, things like one platform, the idea, and I think simplicity has come up a number of times, is to kind of pull it all back, right? And to that point of barrierless, frictionless environments, how do we create this opportunity where folks can have one optimizer to reach one audience, whatever that means. That could mean big, broad demos. That could mean advanced audience targets. That could mean traditional sort of demography. How do you bring all of that together to have one plan, holistic measurement, data and targeting domestically and abroad? And I think that's sort of what we're working towards.
And just briefly, you mentioned some of the other big initiatives in the family, so to speak.
Sure.
On addressability, the one platform, and so on.
Sure.
How do they all fit together?
Sure. No, that's a great question. So Adsmart in general as a brand, like I said, represents all of the addressable by day one definition targeting products at NBC Universal. So that's data-driven linear, household addressable, and then programmatic digital as well. And so interestingly enough, I think over the last 3 to 5 years, as my team has been bringing all of these solutions to market, we were sort of tip of the spear in unlocking this notion of data-enabled cross-portfolio audience-targeted media as a complementary strategy to sort of content-first, tentpoles, premiums, things like that in the more legacy traditional ways of transacting. And so I think, really excited because I think that was the signal both internally at NBC Universal that this was feasible, that we could sell in this new way, and that it was something that the marketplace desired externally. And so all of the things that we've been doing as sort of the in-house incubator led to this moment of dissemination and integration to the broader org, and is going to be the thing that I think helps usher in this new wave of how we transact and how we go to market this upfront, which again will be another big swing towards portfolio and towards things like one platform and Peacock. So I think my team was the petri dish or laboratory for testing all of this and making sure it was viable and sort of refining, and now we're going to roll it out in a much bigger way.
And your one big learning, if there's one thing you wanted to share with everybody here that you've learned putting all of this together, what's your big takeaway about the stuff that we should be thinking about in the 2020s? What have you learned packaging this ambitious project?
Sure. I think we're at this point where, we've done enough test and learn. I think it's time to do. And I think that's one thing we haven't seen enough of, right, is we've done enough attribution. We truly have. I mean, our team has financed 40+ studies across every part of the funnel, from upper funnel brand, mid funnel, driving site conversion and site traffic, and even lower funnel incremental sales. And it's those latter two where television has always gotten sort of historically shortchanged. And we've even proven out the efficacy of, is the juice worth the squeeze there in terms of applying an advanced audience target to traditional linear TV. Now it's time to really double down. And though it's grown, it's still a relatively small piece of the pie. So part of that, I think, is locking arms with the rest of the industry. And while we're all doing really interesting, innovative things alone, I think we can do better together. One of my favorite quotes in general is, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. And I also saw it at a recent industry thing I was at, and it reminded me of that quote. And I think that really sums up why we're part of things like OR, why we're part of things like Open AP. I think it's really important to allow the market to transact with multiple publishers in this audience-based, automation-driven way at the same time without it all feeling siloed and separate. And so I think those are some of my key learnings. I think it's time to do. I think it's time to link arms and make this easier for the buy side. And remember that this is all about the consumer and the consumer experience, and make that a more positive, less disruptive experience as well.
Ashley, I think that's a great, almost a sum up of the entire message from the retreat. Thank you.
Thank you so, so much.